Rastafari repair the damage. So, give thanks. All right, so we're gonna get started. All right. So, Lion Pride, I want to welcome a very special guest. We are honored by his presence. He needs no introduction, but we'll allow him to give a brief introduction for our younger audience, because we understand we do have a lot of younger people who are watching, but help us to give a warm, loving welcome to none other than Dr. Julius Garvey. Welcome to the Lion Talk Show, Dr. Julius Garvey.
Well, thank you for having me on your show, Brother Kwasi. That's my
Yes.
yeah.
This is one of the highlight moments of this journey on YouTube. Being here, I want to also thank you. You are so gracious to honor us with your presence at the founding of the Association of Rastafari Creatives Arc, which is still going strong. But I want to just allow you to introduce yourself. Give a little bit of your background and history before we go into the topic, because we do have a significant young audience.
Not that much about me. I'm Julius Garvey, second son of Marcus Garvey, and by profession, I'm a surgeon. I'm retired now for the last 5 years or so, kind of enjoying my retirement. That's a good enough introduction.
Yes.
And Garvey, and you know the tree that I come from.
Yes.
I'm just a branch.
Direct branch. What is your? Can you just give us at least one memory of your father?
Well, my father died when I was 7 years old. I was back in Jamaica. The last time I saw him, I was 5 years old in England. No, we left England.
Yes.
So it was just, childhood memories like that of a 5-year-old, with somebody who, seemed to be a very huge presence physically, but, would watch myself and my brother playing in the living room or in the backyard, throwing snowballs and taking us to the movies, buying ice cream, those kind of memories.
Beautiful.
But the good memories, shall we say, came later on through my mother, who brought us both up and in the understanding of who our father was. So she was both a mother and a father. So.
Yes, and your mother is also a legend in her own right. So please just let the viewers know who your mother was and some of her great contribution.
Is Amy Jakes Garvey. She is also passed, of course, but she was the wife of Marcus Garvey, and she really was, his right-hand man, if you will.
Yes.
She helped to organize the UNIA back in 1917, etc. And she ran the women's page for the Negro World newspaper. And when he was imprisoned in 1925, she organized his writings and some of the speeches that he made into the Philosophy and Opinions, Volume 1 and 2, that we all know. And of course, he gave his approval. She published them. And, over the years, she supported the UNIA, back in Jamaica. She was somewhat political in terms of the People's National Party. She used to campaign for them. She never wanted to run for office because she was raising both of us. And she felt that was her full-time job. And I think she did quite a good job because, like I said, she was both mother and father. She never brought anybody else into the household in terms of another male presence. So my dad was always there. So even though, it was, quotes, a single-parent home, he was always present because he was always talked about. He was always revered. And both myself and my brother were always taught to, shall we say, live up to the Garvey name. And she always set high standards for both of us, which we try to accomplish in some way.
Well, as a surgeon, I think, it's self-evident that you achieved a high standard with your life, because by nature you are helping people to preserve life. But the reason that you're here, of course, the topic of conversation throughout the Pan-African world. The reason why Dr. Garvey was so gracious, because he's being inundated, and this shows you, how he feels about the Rastafari community, that he granted us this audience. Yes. But this, how do you feel about? Well, first, talk about what has happened specifically with the pardon, and then let us know initial feelings.
Right.
We want to go into pardon versus exoneration.
Yeah, I think we can kind of go into all of that at the same time. We're very pleased with the posthumous pardon that President Biden granted to my dad. It's been a long time coming. We had applied for this certainly way back in 2016 with President Obama with his second term. We thought that was an easy lift for him, but it didn't happen. So, so President Biden decided to go along with that. And I think it's important to understand what a posthumous pardon is, because it's different from a pardon.
Yes.
And it's different from an exoneration.
Okay.
The posthumous pardon is given to very few people. It comes from a posthumous presidential pardon. It comes from the highest office in the land, meaning the presidency of the United States. And it's a way to correct an injustice. It's specifically a way to correct an injustice and write a historical record in terms of a government action that was taken, and it is being corrected. So, it's of great significance. Only 4 have been given in the entire history of the United States of America.
Okay.
The most recent one was in 2018 when President Trump exonerated Jack Johnson, who, as you know, was a major heavyweight champion, and they convicted him. He was married to this lady, and was a white lady, and they convicted him on white slavery or something. Yes. It's totally ridiculous. And it's similar to my dad. It was a framed-up charge because, of course, he was beating up all the white people. He was the heavyweight champion of the world, and they wanted to destroy his reputation.
Yes.
President Trump did that, and this is now followed, by Biden, and of course Calvin Coolidge back in the day, 1937. On the basis of the findings of his Attorney General, commuted the sentence of my father because he thought that an injustice had been committed. Of course, my dad was then deported, as an undesirable alien in that sense, back to Jamaica. So, what Biden is doing is, again, correcting that injustice that was committed, 101 years ago. So we're very, very pleased with that. Now, exoneration itself is a separate process. The president cannot exonerate. The exoneration has to come through the Congress.
Okay.
And there's a House resolution which we've participated in since 1987 was the first time we went before the House Judiciary Committee, which is a part of the Congress, with John Conyers, who was the head of the House Judiciary Committee at the time, as well as with a congressman from Harlem. So and over time, House resolutions have been submitted to the Congress, but because of the political nature of the process, Republican, Democrat, it has never come to fruition. But there's still a House resolution right now in front of the Congress, which was placed there by Representative Yvette Clarke, who was a Democrat from Brooklyn. If her parents are Jamaican.
Yes.
The attempt to gain exoneration still continues in terms of the political aspect of it. Another aspect of it that is possible, and we have been working that to some degree, and we'll focus on that, is to expunge the record itself in the New York court system.
Yes.
And the things that we have been involved with over time.
Yes. So in terms of your carrying on the legacy, you're saying that this is a step, but it's not the end of the journey in terms of preserving, the legacy of your father.
Quite true, but it's a major step to have the president of the United States say that an injustice was committed, and he wants to right that wrong is a major step, and we're very pleased.
Give thanks, give thanks. And you haven't been sitting down and twiddling your thumbs either. You have been very active in terms of your own carrying of the baton in terms of multimedia and different initiatives on the Pan-African front. Can you just share, because I do have a large international Rastafari audience, some of the things that you're engaged in currently?
Well, we've done a few things. We've been involved in the reparations movement. We were in Accra, it was last November. The African Union sort of came on board as far as the reparations movement is concerned, so that is continuing. I think what is somewhat significant in terms of the Garvey ideology, etc., is that we have edited a book now called Justice for Marcus Garvey, Looking in the Whirlwind, because a lot of people don't know Marcus Garvey. As you know, our history is not being taught in our schools, even in Jamaica, of course.
Yes.
The Marcus Garvey is not being taught, in any sort of a compulsory, comprehensive way in the high schools, etc. So our young people who don't know our history, and this is a significant problem, because history is the lens that you look through to guide you in terms of the future. So most of us are lost without a historical basis of where we are and how we got there. So we've edited, Justice for Marcus Garvey, and people like Rupert Lewis have contributed, and many other, shall we say, Garveyites, people who understand the history and the contribution of Marcus Garvey on a worldwide scale in terms of his involvement, not just in the United States, but in the Caribbean as well as in Africa. And I urge people to read that. It's available on Amazon, Justice for Garvey. I wrote my autobiography. I was the editor for that, and made a small contribution. I've written, revised the philosophy and opinions. That's also available. To make it sort of more easily accessible in terms of the understanding for young people who don't necessarily like to read, volumes that are 400 pages and more. So, the young people are into their cell phones and
yes,
immediately everything is a soundbite, So we've tried to make it more amenable to the younger generation. And we've written our own book called Be Woke, which is something of a critique of our educational system today, and the fact that we have to wake up to the reality of the moment and understand ourselves, both historically as well as ourselves mentally, psychologically, and spiritually. So, that's kind of been taking up my time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every time I have reached out, you have answered the call, on the basis of your belief that there should be a strong connection between Marcus Garvey, the UNIA, and Rastafari. Why do you hold that belief? And, we know that there was some historical tension between Marcus Garvey and His Majesty, but you have been very clear and you have been very active in terms of, maintaining that outreach. Why is that important to the eye?
Well, we're all, again, coming from the same tree and the same roots. So we are kind of roots people. We're grounded in Africa, and we're grounded in our civilizations, both the Ethiopian civilization as well as the Kemetic civilization, Nubia, Kush, and so on. So that's where we take our history, culture, and traditions from. And of course the emperor was part of that in terms of the delineation of the kingship and kingdoms in Ethiopia. You mentioned tensions, but I don't think it's so much tension, it's a matter of difference in style.
Yes.
In terms of an approach to, when Mussolini invaded Ethiopia. As you know, Marcus Garvey is very much a direct, upfront person. He wanted to jump out there with a gun and confront Mussolini.
Yes, yes,
The emperor was more the diplomat, and so he went with the flow of the times, which was with the allies, etc., and spending his time diplomatically, shall we say, which allowed him to achieve what the goal was, which was to get the Italians out of Eritrea and Ethiopia. So that was his way, and that was successful. As I said, I know my dad was he was a Leo in terms of being born in August the 17th. So he wanted to bite Mussolini, and chew him up and things like and spit him out. So like I said, we come from the same tree and have the same roots. And as you know, the birth of Rastafari comes out of the Garvey movement and Julius
yes,
Howell and so on, the progenitors of the movement. And I
definitely.
believe, firmly that the Rastafarians have been the ones that have, shall we say, carried the message and actually lived the life of being Africans in the diaspora. So, we have to big up Rastaman on that basis. So that, well, it's true liberty. A lot of people talk Garvey, but not many people live Garvey.
That's true.
I think Rastaman have lived Garvey in my estimation. So, and I believe that they're the true followers of Garvey as well as the emperor. And there's no problem with that from my perspective. So, I always have a handout, if you will, towards the brethren. And, over the years, we've worked together wherever we can.
Give thanks. And how do you feel about what's happening on the continent right now with the Sahel states, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger? Some of your dad's greatest vision seemed to be
Mhm.
manifesting in a way that we didn't anticipate. We would never have said that this, revolution would be coming from these countries. We would have thought some of the bigger countries would be leading, but these smaller states that were kind of backwater in terms of the world estimation are really blazing a trail. We're seeing Ibrahim Traore's face popping up all over Kenya, mini buses all over the continent. As a lifelong Pan-Africanist, how do you feel about the uprising coming out of the Sahel?
Well, I think it's really wonderful, and in some sense, it's leading the way. It has started with the Francophone countries, as you
Yes,
mentioned, Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, and Chad. Uh,
yes,
those states have been continually colonized by France and have been invaded, shall we say, by the terrorists, the Islamic terrorists and so on, that are somehow, supported by people who want to continue uh,
yes,
raping Africa of its resources and destabilizing the continent as a whole. And I think it's basically the young people who are rising up and seeing that, Africa is the richest continent in the world, and yet still it has the poorest people in the world. I mean, that's an anachronism, and
yes,
it's blatant. And I think the young people realize that the leadership has failed them. No, it's not just the failure of the leadership. I mean, it's the fact that neocolonialism has continued to try to subvert the leadership, either through assassination or regime change or other methods of creating disturbance within the different countries. But, that's a fact of life, and we have to work with that. And we have to know what it is, and we have to still, move forward in terms of our own authenticity, and our own utilization of our own resources for our own people. So, I see it also now that it moved to Kenya to some degree. The young people there have been acting up against Ruto. And now it's in the DRC. The young people are chasing the French out of the Congo, which is great, because the French have been one of the worst colonizers, along with the Belgians and so on. Well, not that one is better than the other one, but
yes,
we need to get rid of these people who are still parasitically staying there and sucking the blood of Africa. It's time to get rid of them. And I'm glad that the young people are taking action, and hopefully we'll get some good leadership out of that in terms of the transition that has to take place with a structured leadership and government to create an agenda for United States of Africa, because that ultimately is what we need in terms of a strong, African presence on the international scene, and a strong Africa, with one army, which is necessary for our security, and one foreign policy, one currency in terms of our economic development. There's the continental free trade agreement that can only work with one government. They have one customs union and so on and so forth. So those things are to come, but I think there are positive signs with the young people acting up, so to speak.
What do you think the role of the diaspora is in this revolution? One of the things that because we've seen coups d'etats before, we've seen military uprisings. However, I think what makes this moment unique is that, one, we have not seen the military alliance between these countries that they've entered into, and two, we have not seen the level of reinvestment into their nations that these military leaders are making in terms of building factories, in terms of the nationalizing of resources. We haven't seen this on this scale. I've just told that Ambassador Eric Kana is trying to facilitate citizenship to Burkina Faso. There's a lot of activity that's happening, but what can realistically, or what would you advise as the diaspora that is watching this unfold? How can we play a role?
Well, as you know, many of the diaspora are returning
Yes.
to Africa. I think Ghana just gave, I don't know,
534. Some of my brethren are there. I just bought some land in Ghana, so I'm part of this movement that you're talking about.
There you go. There you go. And Benin has just announced also, repatriation and citizenship and so on. So this is one way, to help the continent. Of course, the other way is shall we say, tourism, to go there, see the place, and enjoy what's there, because again, the diversity of the landscape, etc., and the cultural milieu is very entertaining. So that's another way. But also the other way is to invest, financially, and with programs. As you know, Africa has 60% of the arable land of the world that's not cultivated. So farming is a great way to go. Tremendous mineral wealth. I mean, all the way to from gold and diamonds to coltan, etc. And all the heavy metals that are needed in terms of the innovations that are coming down now in terms of AI and what have you. So it's a great continent. It has a great future. It has a large number of young people. If we need to be able to help them with education and the skill set that we have in the diaspora. So those are some of the areas that we can work with. As you know, CARICOM has a relationship now with the AU. So that's something that is happening. Generally speaking, we're supposed to be the sixth region in terms of the diaspora. So, again, that trade is being encouraged. The African Exim Bank and so on, has a couple of $1 billion there to help with trade and investment between the diaspora and the continent. So those ties have to be strengthened in order for African development to really, shall the take off and move at a pace that we'll all be, happy with.
All right. Talk to us. We're getting ready to wrap up. Again, we want to thank you, but talk to us before you go about the multimedia assets that you are building Garvey TV, some of the other initiatives that you are embarking on to ensure that this movement is modernized and is reaching this wide audience, because we know that the median age of in Africa is 17 years old. We're talking about 1.4, 1.5 billion people. It's said that 1 out of every 5 people by 2050 will be an African. So but you're preparing. Talk to us about the media apparatus and how people can tap into what you're doing and support what's happening over there.
Well, I don't really like to say too many things about what we're doing because,
Okay.
I don't think I should go too much further.
All
But,
right. Don't worry.
we definitely need to have methods of instant communication
Yes.
in terms of information between the continent and the diaspora. Because right now we get our news from CNN and the BBC and even Al Jazeera, but we don't get our news from Africa and from Africans. So we get our news through an intermediary who interprets it and gives us what they think is news. So then we have to reinterpret it or accept it. So that clearly is a problem. We need instant communications, electronic as well as paper communication. We also need, direct flights, as you know, most of the time, you have to go through the US or you have to go to Germany or what you would call it, Gatwick Airport or something, to get to West Africa or East Africa, which is kind of crazy. It takes you a day.
Yes.
Whereas, a direct flight would take you 6 or 7 hours. We don't have that yet. Ethiopian Airlines or what have you, we don't have that yet. The same thing, we need the reestablishment of the Black Star Line so that we can trade and commercially as well as tourists and so on, back and forth between the continent, reverse the slave trade, if you will.
Yes.
So those are things that are necessary. And as I mentioned, the whole business of agriculture and the agricultural development, we are involved with in that area. And we hope to be making a significant contribution in that area. The educational piece is critical in terms of teaching Garveyism, which is the foundation of Pan-Africanism.
Yes.
And so, the skills that are necessary, the computer skills, and the other skills that are necessary, the STEM, or STEAM, if you will, but, technology, mathematics, engineering. These things are of extreme importance. So these are areas that we're working at with different organizations, on the continent as well as here in the US to make these things a reality.
I want to thank you once again. I'm going to give you a chance to give the final word. But before you go, we find ourselves in the era of Donald Trump right now. It seems there's a massive firing or let go of government workers, which we know a lot of Black people in America, depend on federal, are part of that federal workforce. So, we are potentially witnessing a massive sea change in terms of, Black people in America, which is going to impact all over the world. We have America ending foreign aid, pausing foreign aid, which, potentially provides an opportunity, because we know a lot of time that foreign aid is not in our best interest. But just as we seal up this reasoning, give us, in this moment, what are your final words to the Black world, to the Pan-African world, going through this tumultuous time of change, knowing what you've known, that what you've seen, over your many decades of work, knowing your father's legacy. How would you surmise where we are, on this momentous arc of African liberation?
Well, my father, when he was in Atlanta back in 1925, when, he didn't know what was going to happen to him, He said, if I die in Atlanta, look for me in the whirlwind and the storm. I'll come back to with millions of your forefathers and so on to help you in the fight for liberty, justice, and equity. Well, I think we're in the whirlwind, and I think I see the storm coming up. So you better hold on to Brother Marcus, and carry out the agenda according to Marcus Garvey. I think we have to thank, Donald Trump for one thing. And I'm going to quote Brother Malcolm. Brother Malcolm says, "Make it plain." And I think Brother Donald Trump is making it plain. If you don't see the writing on the wall, then you're blind. You're blind. You're really, really blind, because the man is making it plain. And we should appreciate that, because so many people, because of the mental slavery, and we can't go into all of that, but
Yes.
because of the mental slavery, they don't believe what they see, or they misinterpret what they see. But the brother is making it plain, so there's no misinterpretation. So then I think there's another quote, something about when your back is against the
I
wall.
was just gonna ask. Yes.
Well, our backs are against the wall, so you have to decide what you're going to do.
Prophecy, the great prophet Marcus. My Bobo Shanti brethren always hold up Marcus as one of our great prophets, And the quote is, until black people's back is against the wall, they will not move to action. And as you say, you see the bloodline of Marcus, call up this. So I know my Bobo Shanti brethren are smiling at this. I want to thank you for your time. I'm not going to go over. Family, we are honored. We have a living legend here in his own right, a surgeon. We talk about science, technology, engineering, and math. He has exemplified the teachings of his father, serving mankind, and he has continued to serve the Pan-African movement, to continue to keep the legacy alive, and we are honored by your presence. We're going to bring you forward. We're working on a lot of things within agriculture. We're working on a lot of initiatives. We're working on an ITAL certification standard right now that will rival the kosher and halal standard. So we are focused on agribusiness and the Rastafari community, and we will be partnering with whatever you're doing, because that link is unbreakable. Yes, and I'll keep you posted, and we'll bring you forward when you have less pressure, because every news outlet on the planet trying to contact Dr. Garvey, and he gave Rastafari an exclusive. So we give thanks, and this is important. And the tagline of this platform, Dr. Garvey, is that the time has come for the lions to tell our own story. And today we have heard from Garvey's own blood how he feels about the pardon, the posthumous pardon, and gave some clarity. I feel a little bit better, and I really give thanks. So stay tuned. We will come forward, because the time has come for the lions to tell our own story. And this is the lion's voice. Blessings.
Peace and blessings, my brother. Thank you.